Tomorrow is determined by today's choices. How long do you think it takes to flip a light switch, open a soda bottle, or like a friend's Facebook post? The same amount of time it takes for you to buckle your seatbelt after getting into a vehicle. I'm sure we all know someone, or may have ourselves at some point, not worn our seatbelts while driving or riding in a vehicle, despite the few seconds it takes to put the seatbelt on. I find myself doing it when I quickly get in the vehicle to go a short distance from point A to point B. Do you decide to wear your seatbelt based on how far you're driving or where you're driving to? It's just a few blocks down the road, it'll be fine. Or I just have to run to the store real quick or go check the mail. I know I have. I have also experienced some personal things that have made me put my seatbelt on as soon as I get in the vehicle. Not only for my own safety, but as an example for my children as well, especially considering seatbelt wearing tends to be less common among younger age groups. Wearing that seatbelt can be the equivalent of life or death, yours or somebody else's. Today, we're going to talk about why wearing a seatbelt is important, the pros and cons of wearing a seatbelt, and the consequences of not wearing a seatbelt. Why is wearing a seatbelt important? In 2023, there were approximately 6.14 million vehicle accidents, all of which ranged in severity, that occurred within the United States. According to an article by Consumer Shield, approximately 94% of those accidents resulted from drivers' behaviors, such as speeding, distracted driving, disobeying traffic signals or signs, driving under the influence, or failing to yield right away at intersections. While only 2% of those accidents are a result of a faulty vehicle, or an environmental factor, such as faulty brakes, blown tires, slick roads, or bad weather. According to the National Safety Council Injury Facts, there were approximately 5.1 million medically consulted injuries in motor vehicles in 2023. With these rates being so high, it is imperative that we wear our seatbelts in order to keep the fatality rates lower than the accident and injury rates. We're now going to look at some of the statistics on seatbelt wearing, the pros and the cons. The overall rate for seatbelt usage among the U.S. is approximately 91.2% in 2024, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. This did vary based on factors such as location and whether seatbelt wearing was a primary or secondary enforcement law. States with primary enforcement laws tend to have a higher seatbelt usage. Wearing your seatbelt is the single most effective thing you can do to protect yourself in an accident. While vehicles are also equipped with airbags for safety, the airbags are only designed to work with seatbelts, not replace them. The force of an airbag can seriously injure or kill you if you are not wearing your seatbelt. Improperly wearing your seatbelt can also cause injuries, whether behind your back or under your arms. When properly wearing a seatbelt, the lap and shoulder belt should be secured across your pelvis and your rib cage. Both can withstand better crash forces compared to other parts of your body. Wearing a seatbelt can also cause injuries in an accident, referred to as seatbelt syndrome. These injuries occur when the pressure of a seatbelt creates internal injuries. These injuries, according to the studies of World Journal of Surgery and Surgical Research and the RSNA journals, there's approximately a 30% chance of internal injury when the common external seatbelt sign or abrasions are present. The presence of the seatbelt sign is associated with being 8 times more likely to experience abdominal injuries and 4 times more likely to experience chest injury compared to those without that sign. Now that we have looked at what can happen while wearing a seatbelt, we're going to look at what can happen when we don't. In 2023, there were approximately 24,000 people killed in vehicle accidents. Nearly 50% of those killed were not wearing their seatbelts. Men, individuals 18 to 24, and backseat passengers are less likely to wear their seatbelts compared to women, older individuals, and front seat passengers or the driver. Wearing your seatbelt in the front of a passenger car reduces your risk of fatal injury by approximately 45% and moderate to critical injury by approximately 50%. Wearing your seatbelt keeps you secure inside the vehicle. Unbuckled occupants are 30 times more likely to be ejected, an event that is fatal approximately 75% of the time. It is not only important for you to wear your seatbelt in a vehicle, but also to encourage your passengers to as well. An unbuckled passenger increases the risk of injury or death to other occupants of the vehicle by approximately 40%. While wearing your seatbelt does present a small risk for injury when involved in a vehicle accident, not wearing your seatbelt in a vehicle dramatically increases that risk of not only injury, but death as well. With these statistics in mind, we can clearly see the benefits to wearing a seatbelt while in a vehicle obviously outweigh the minor risk associated with wearing it if involved in a vehicle accident. Wearing your seatbelt while in a vehicle is imperative to increase the chances of living through a vehicle accident, not only for yourself, but for the other occupants of the vehicle as well. There is a small risk of injury associated with seatbelt wearing when involved in an accident, but that risk is inconsequential in comparison to the life-saving capabilities of wearing that seatbelt. The next time you get into a vehicle, remember how long it takes to flip that switch, open that soda bottle, or like that friend's Facebook post, and buckle up.